Hey. Hi. Hey, how you doing? I'm Adam from Innocence. Welcome to this online edition of OM&BASS. Before we start, a word from our sponsors. OM&BASS in your face. Thanks, Rach. It's a lifesaver, freshening up before we get going. So, I'm here to talk to you today about the benefits of touch and why you don't actually need anyone to be touched, because you can touch yourself. It is okay. There is nothing untoward, nothing dodgy about that, much as some might think. How could something so beautiful and so necessary for our very existence become a dirty word? It says a lot about how out of sync we are with our own nature, let alone the world at large, with the natural world in which we used to live. So, to get started, first I'd like to talk a little bit about the benefits of touch, and then move into what is touch and how we can deepen our experience of touch, how we can make it a conscious touch. There's a lot of information out there, I'm sure. If you're interested in the subject, you may have already heard some of the anecdotes, some of the stories I'm going to tell. If this is new to you, then I'm hopefully going to add just enough information to get you going, to whet your appetite. But please explore. YouTube is the biggest library online of YouTubers, of blogs, of talks, of TED Talks. There's so much out there. Just search for touch and see what happens. And if you like today's talk and you'd like to find out more, please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. My website is innersense.life. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. So, it's great to see you here today. It's great for you to be here. I'm very pleased that you could join in this wonderful fundraiser of Rachel's for human trafficking. We are human beings. Each of us has an innate value. We can never be someone else's property. So, yeah. Everybody's adding their little drop today to put a stop to that. Let's get going. Touch is the most primordial form of communication. Before there were words, before we could vocalize, we touched each other. Just take a look back. You don't have to look back in time, because our roots in the animal kingdom are here today. We cohabit this world with hundreds of species of primates. And science has shown they spend between 10 and 20, some of the more advanced forms of primates, they're spending 17, 18% of their time grooming each other, touching each other, communicating through touch. And it's not just about getting rid of the fleas. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Everybody knows how good it feels to be flea-free, so they help each other out. You may have seen this BBC documentary about an old chimp, an alpha male who was holding on to power by the skin of his teeth. Old, a little bit decrepit, and a little bit isolated. There was a younger contingent. There were some challenges for his dominance there. He used touch as a way of forming alliances, as a way of bringing in other males into his inner circle. He would groom them, he would touch them. So, grooming, also another dirty word. Got to be careful what I say here. But let's keep it real. Let's try not to be so politically correct, because in our innocence, we are innocent. And let's remember that by moving so far forward, we have left so much behind. Touch, for example, is now banned in many schools across the American continent and in the UK. I'm not sure. I live in Spain, which is why in February I'm wearing a light t-shirt. I followed the sunshine. So touch being banned in school, teachers are no longer allowed to touch children, to touch their pupils because of fear of child molesters. Whereas, to be honest, if that's going to happen, it's happening in the safety, the security of the child's own home and not so much at school. So many children are suffering now because of a few nasty individuals. We need touch. Touch is a way of bringing society together. It's a way of bringing people, living beings together. There have been studies on rats and the mother rats that lick their children. I don't know what you call little rattlings. They showed much more problem-solving abilities. They were much better, much more socially adjusted when they grew up. And so too, in our world, in our modern day world, there's a lady, Tiffany, I don't know, it's gone, who has been doing a lot of research into a doctor, into children at school, into newborn babies. Prematurely born babies show a 47% weight gain over the time they're in incubation, just receiving 15 minutes a day of touch therapy, compared to those that are put in that little incubator, in that little plastic box, and they have all of the nutrients they need, except for the most necessary nutrient for human development, which is touch. There was another study back in the 50s when they were allowed to do crazy, inhumane studies on unwanted children, society's excess, children that had been born, their parents didn't want them, so they thought it would be cool to run a laboratory test on them, putting them in little cubicles yet again, tending to all of their needs. They had enough food, water, they were well clothed, they were kept warm. And their carers who would come in and give them the food were not allowed to make any kind of visual contact or speak to them or touch them, just give them their food and leave. Needless to say, the study was stopped prematurely a few months in when the children just started dying. They had everything they needed, but their life had no purpose without contact, without touch. Even later, when they were placed in foster homes and given a good start in life, the children continued to die or become sick. Those first few months, those primordial, formative times in our life are so important for setting us up, for giving us a head start in life. And it seems that we begin to develop some patterns then that we carry forward for the rest of our life. So any prospective parents out there, bear that in mind. Give some massage to your children. Tickle their little toes. Don't just put the iPhone, the iPad in front of them to entertain them so they don't get bored, so they don't bother you, so they don't cry. No, strap them on your body. Like in primitive societies, they had these. Sorry, my phone's ringing. I should have turned that off. Anyway, let's continue here. We're just getting into some nitty-gritty, into some juicy touch. So, I'm English. Funny accent is because I've been living in Spain for 20 years and traveling around the world. most of my life, but I'm English. So I was very, not surprised, but disappointed when I read this particular study that some scientist, like a bird watcher in a park, set himself up in a little cubicle and decided to study his subjects. Two friends communicating over the same amount of time in a cafe, one-on-one communication. There's already a rapport there. There's some kind of relationship. Do you know how many times the English people touched? They didn't. The Americans, over the course of an hour, touched each other twice in moments of enthusiasm. I think they got really excited about something and, oh, but just twice. In France, it was 110 times. And in Puerto Rico, 180. That's 3 times a minute. You can't stop those people from touching each other. You can't get them off each other. There's, so much interplay going on there. And one of the reasons why I chose Spain, apart from the sunshine, was the humanity here. The people are still touchy-feely. And you walk into a bakery and everybody says, "Hey, good morning." There's relationships within society, even with strangers in the bus stop. They'll tell you their life story. So, as I said, I wasn't going to bore you with too much information. We're going to get on and we're going to get into a practical self-massage session any minute now. But I would just like to say that there have been many recent discoveries on the matter of touch. It's now being shown that touch provides a feeling of reward, a feeling of embodiment, right? Well done. Pat on the back. Makes you feel good. Touch reinforces reciprocity, human relationships. There was another study out there of the game theory, prisoners theory. You remember 2 guys that they collaborate and they split the money, or they go it alone and they take all the money for themselves. But if the other guy goes, then if they both go it alone, then neither of them win. So the investigator had these people strapped up in another test environment, and just by touching them on their back at the moment that they had to make the decision, he was able to show that those who were touched had a much higher possibility of collaborating, teamwork, right? It's based on touch. There was another study out there a guy decided to watch NBA basketball professional teams over the season, and those that there was a lot more high fives and belly bumps and physical contact between the team were much more likely to win. So any manager, trainee, anybody who dedicates themselves to coaching or training on a managerial perspective or runs a team, if you want to build teamwork, if you want to build collaboration, get your people to touch each other. Just little touches. It doesn't have to be a deep massage or anything a little bit more touchy-feely, which does induce oxytocin. It's been called the love hormone. It rises in moments of sexual arousal. And so there is obviously a sexy element of touch. And why not love your partner? If you want to be in a healthy, loving relationship with someone, with a member of the same sex, the opposite sex, even from the animal kingdom, who cares? Touch is the basis of relationships. So there's other types of touch that are sustained touches or slow stroking touches, just like a mother strokes a baby. That increases the immune response, right? Just get this. It increases the amount of killer cells available in her immune system, which will help you to fight disease and lead a healthy life just by being touched between 3 and 5 centimeters per second. So is social distancing really the way to fight a pandemic? I'll just throw that one out there. Perhaps what we really need is sunshine and touch. Touch decreases blood pressure. Touch slows the heartbeat. How does it do that? Well, I'm sure you've all heard of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, the two sides of our nervous system which activates us, arousal or stress, or the fight and flight response. You know it, right? Is the sympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest. It activates the vagus nerve, which comes all the way down the central column of the body, touching all of the organs, all of your internal organs, from your tongue, it's involved in taste, runs down the back of the throat and through the lungs, touches the heart, and touches from the stomach, the spleen, the liver, gallbladder, intestines, and genital organs. It comes all the way down. It's called the vagus nerve, like a vagabond, because it runs almost aimlessly through our body. It's a bit vague in that way, but really it needs to spread itself out to be omnipresent. So we're going to start today by activating our vagus nerve. It has been shown that sustained pressure on the belly. I'm doing it already. I can't stop touching myself. Has been shown to decrease blood pressure, to slow down the heart rate, to activate the rest and digest function through the vagus nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, all day long, we're getting stressed out. Our body doesn't know the difference between a tiger that's really chasing us through the jungle and the stress response from having too much to do, too much work to finish, not enough time, too many deadlines. By 6 o'clock, all of this stuff has got to be handed in. And then you got to go pick up the kids and make dinner, and there's just too much to fit in without a time. So we're activating the adrenal cortex. We're activating our stress, fight and flight mode all day long in modern life. So let's take some time out. Remember ourselves. Be kind to ourselves. Only go as fast as the slowest part of us. So let us begin. Touch. How do you touch? It's an important one here. Even bore you make physical contact, you are touching. Your energetic field is touching your subject. If you're a body worker, you may have experienced this. You're bringing your hand down through the energy field. You begin to feel tingly sensations, pressure building up there in the air. And the fascia system. Also, forgive me if you don't know what the fascia is, but I'm assuming that you're all yogis and following this fascia fashion, this internal web, this network of interconnectivity that wraps around all of our internal organs, runs around all the way under the skin, separates everything, and at the same time glues everything together. That fascia system somehow has an anticipatory facility. It can anticipate when it's about to be activated, when it's about to be touched. Interesting little factoid there. So even before we touch somebody, just as we're walking into the room, our presence is felt. And if there's a rapport there, there's a physical touch, then our bodies all start to activate, to adjust, to welcome in the touch, if we perceive it as a friendly touch. But, we're all friends here. So let us begin. We're taking our right hand and slowly bringing it towards the navel. I'm going to stand up so you can see this better. Even before you touch, you're coming in close. We're going to do some belly circles. Coming out a little bit. And coming in. Coming in to touch around the belly button. Let's land. Let's go for a soft and gentle landing. Not a Ryanair landing, but a gentle landing. And begin to feel. Don't do anything. Just feel. Open up your mind's eye and feel all there is to feel. Now, in this case, we have the benefit of being the toucher and the touchy. We have the sense of touching and of being touched. If you're working on somebody else, a friend and a lover, then you almost have to imagine what's going on within, yet somehow this act of visualization of turning your inner awareness into somebody else's being is enough to open up that transcendental gateway and understand what's going on within. They say we have 5 senses to perceive the physical world, but we know there is no such thing. Remember, your hand is on the belly, right? Just feeling, just listen to me talking. I have a tendency to go off on one, but I'll come back. This physical world in which we live, since over 100 years, we know that there's no such thing as physical. There's no such thing as matter, inert physical matter. Quantum physics is a paradigm shift. Einstein taught us that energy is equal to the mass of an object times c squared. C is the speed of light. That's a very high number. Squared times by itself, that's an incredibly high number. Times the mass. So a very, very small mass of a grain of sand times by a very, very big number is a huge number. And that's science. That's a technical term there. That is a huge number. Every small bit of matter has an inordinate amount of energy within it. So electrons are buzzing around at the speed of light, creating these waveforms around us. Maybe you can feel that. If you're advanced, let me know. I'd be very impressed. But we can feel energy, right? There's some part of us that is an energetic being. Consciousness is an energetic experience. So to begin with, we're tuning into the sensations. Maybe you can feel the blood pumping. Maybe you can feel your belly groaning, like mine just did. Okay, now let's add a little bit of movement in here. With the palm of your hand, pushing in this way. And your fingertips coming in the other side, pulling this way. This is just a very small wave. Doesn't need much pressure to be effective. It just needs some awareness and some loving kindness. So go ahead. Give yourself some love. You can't see this at the same time, I know. We'll get on to some other things, but how's your wave going on? Just loosening up the belly now. Maybe you can turn into some spirals. If you start to feel a bit of tension, stickiness, fascial adhesions in any particular part of your body, spiralize. Come on, you OM&BASSers, you spiral crowd, let's get into ourselves. Feel free to burp. Let it all loose. Releasing locked up energy with your fingertips. Trying to keep your hand soft. The loving touch. Be kind to yourself. A tight hand cannot feel, right? You go in there with this tension in your body, then apart from transmitting that tension to the person you're touching, you are reducing your ability to feel. You need space in the tissues to activate all of those little mechanoreceptors. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk too much about factoids. Those mechanoreceptors transduce mechanical pressure, load, sensations like touch, pressure, vibration, which is how we feel texture, stretch, and pass all of that information to the brain, which in turn resupplies the feedback loop. It's a sense called proprioception, right? Anyway, if you're interested about that more, maybe one day I'll do a video on that too. Proprioception is an amazing subject as well. So everything is connected through the fascial web of our body. Now I want you to explore this area, your rib cage, not the sternum, it's your chest bone, comes to an end here in a little pointy bone called the xiphoid process. Now I don't want you to go around that bone. It can hurt. It's pointy. The rib cage forms an arch here. So let's just feel a little bit, make some space between the torso and the abdomen, between the rib cage and the belly. These inner organs, the liver and the stomach are here. So just making a little bit of space between the organs and the lungs. The diaphragm is here. So everything we do here affects us. Now I want you to, with loose fingers and your right hand, feel into this area. And at the same time, some loose fingers on the other hand, just explore the sternum. As I said, everything is connected. So if we introduce a little bit of reciprocal tension, this is the tension between 2 points. Yeah? Not tension as in stress, just got one hand here on the belly. You can imagine it's there. The other hand on the sternum. Let's just make some space by lowering the hand that is on the belly and raising the hand that is on the sternum. Just like the texture of some fabric. If I pull here and I pull here, I'll introduce some tension in the fibers. The fibers of the fascia, that is. So from here, listening to to your body in this moment, in this time. Maybe you can feel that your bottom hand wants to go in a particular direction. Mine wants to go a little bit to my left. You're seeing it right on the screen. If you cannot feel that there is a natural tendency in a particular direction, you can induce some movement. You can add a vector of force by moving your upper and lower hands in opposite directions. They're already pulling. Then add another vector in there and see how that compares to the other way. Right? Does one way feel easier, looser, like your body wants to go that way? Does it? Then go that way. Exaggerate the ease, right? Moving into the ease. If the body wants to go there, then take it. Why are you going to fight it? If there's a little bit of resistance going the other way, then by the time we fully extend and fully explore ease in one direction, there will come a point of full extension where you feel that you're going the other way again. And it's easier than it was before. It's like a rebound, like a rubber ball bouncing off a wall. Okay, so I've introduced a couple of ideas there to you. Reciprocal tension. We're using 2 points here, but you could use any 2 points in your body. You could make some space in your chest. If you're feeling a little bit of a sore muscle, then on your thigh, you could do it. On one arm, it's a little bit harder. At the back of your neck, you could introduce some reciprocal tension and then induce some movement to move the fascia around. Just think about this spider's web connecting all the parts of your body that you can play around with. Fascia loves to be played with. It loves to react to the new stimuli. Where there is pain, there's an overload, so the body gets locked in a particular sensation, like a broken record. You cannot fight that, but you can introduce novel sensations. The body loves new sensations. It's fascinated by the new. So, we have induction, which is really a method of fascia listening. We listen through our hands, right? Oh, what's that you say? To our bodies. We build a communication through touch, adding some novel information with different directions. So massage is a lot more than just squeezing muscles and body rubbing. Everybody loves a good rub down, I know, but there's deeper ways of communicating always, not just talking about football, but actually having some deeper, meaningful, philosophical conversations with your own body. How are you today? How do you feel? Opening up your mind's eye, now 2 hands on either side of the sternum, right? And this little ridge here, this mountain, this valley. And tuning in with your fingertips, becoming aware of sensation, heat, cold. Is there a tingly sensation there? Is there a vibration? Can you feel your heartbeat? Can you feel the blood pumping in and out, moving around? what can you feel right here, right now? And this is where it gets quantic. This is where it gets fascinating, because by approaching our body or someone else's body with touch, but with an open mind, with our own consciousness, we are creating a form of energetic communication. You may have heard of the term quantum entanglement. It's when two elementary particles are intimately linked, so you fire one off in opposite directions. What you do to one will affect the other, irrespective of time. There is an instant connection across space and time. So they say that the waveform of a quantum particle is collapsed when we measure it. When we become aware of something, the nature of what we become aware of changes. Ooh, I just felt one of my ribs move as I breathed, making some space. Sometimes our body gets stuck. It cannot deal with something that happened. It cannot process an event. So the fascia remembers. The fascia is like a database of memory for our body. When we activate that part of ourselves, then through our consciousness, through our playful interaction with the tissues of the body, we can instigate a change through novel information, through new information. Now let's put the fingertips here. The sternum has two parts to it. There's a lower part and an upper part, each of which has a ligament attachment to the pericardium, which is a sac of fascia wrapping around your heart. So let's try again, introducing some reciprocal tension. Bottom hand moves down, top hand moves up. Let's make some space. And this will produce an effect in our hearts, so we can feel with a lighter heart, releasing some of that tension that we build up. Even without wanting to, we worry. There's a lot of worry going around the world at the moment. And fear is just as big a cause of disease as any virus out there. So give yourself some love. Tuning into the electromagnetic field of your heart. Remember, induction, moving around, trying different directions. Wherever you feel ease, go there. Now you could introduce a different vector. Do the tissues in your body. Okay, we're dealing with bone here, but between the bone, there's the periosteum, there's the fascia connection around the bone, and there's some small little muscles here in the sternum. The roots and the connections of the pectoralis majors, as well as some fascial connections. So there's a little bit of soft tissue here as well, right? Not a lot, but there's a little, just enough to try and add some pressure or relieve some pressure. Move your hand away from your body or deeper into your body. What feels better for you, right? So you got upward, downward movement. You got maybe sidewards movement going on there. What will happen if you add some pressure? Add another vector, right? In this tower of vectors, add some pressure or relieve some pressure. Do you feel like there's an expansion here? Or there's some compaction? I don't want compaction, so I leave you with the expansion. But maybe you want compaction. I'm just giving you some options. So adding a little bit of pressure or decreasing the pressure of your fingers until you are barely touching, just the softest of touch, just the kind of pressure that a 5p coin would make if you put it on your skin, right? You can barely feel it. Sometimes the lightest touch goes the deepest. There goes that rib again. Okay. You know what? Let's add one more vector. But there's nothing more I can do, I hear you say. Well, you can always do some more. Okay. How about a spiral? How about a spiral like this? Or how about a spiral like that? How about one like this? Or one like that? What feels good for you today? So we've now got upwards and downwards movements. We've got some sideways movements. We've got some light pressure movements. And we've got a spiral. All of that going on. What a mess we've gotten ourselves into. How do we get out of this, I hear you ask? By reversing the directions. And as I said, you're going into the ease, but then on the way out, you want to go all the other ways. So whatever didn't feel so good before maybe feels better now. You're making some space. You're helping the body to process. You're adding some novel information in there into your tissues. And suddenly it's lighter to breathe. The pericardium, that sac of fascia around your heart, is also connected to your back via technical term here, C6, C7. I'm sure you all know your vertebrae, right? The cervical part of our neck and the biggest bone just at the top of your back here, that biggest protrusion is C7, right? C7, C8, whatever. You can tell the difference between the last cervical bone and the first thoracic bone, vertebrae, because when you turn your head, the bone moves. If it doesn't move, that's because it's the back part of the spine, the thoracic, T1. So there's one below that does not move. It's all moving. Probably because I got my arm up at the same time. Anyway, there's big one. Right where the cervical curve begins is where the pericardium connects to at the back of our neck. And from there, it connects to the deep cervical fascia that runs behind our windpipe, behind our voice box. So we place one hand on the back of our neck and the other hand on the sternum, on the chest bone. And again, the bottom hand goes down towards gravity, and the top hand tries to make some contact, but without squeezing, without giving too much pressure, just allowing friction to build up between the two surfaces of your hand and the back of your neck. And imagine that you have a handful of tentacles like an octopus, and you can just go. So we're using that kind of friction to gently ease the tissues up the back of our neck and down with the other hand through the sternum. Maybe sitting up, maybe breathing into your head, and breathing down helps to animate those tissues. Maybe that will give you some interesting sensations. And some deep breathing will give you some release. So now with a bit of self-love, with a few easy self-massage tips, there's no excuse for a heavy heart. And I hope that lightheartedly you can go on and enjoy the rest of the day. We've still got a few minutes left. It's just the same. Just maybe, even if you don't feel a particular difference between one side and another, particular sense of ease, just a gentle rocking motion, like the waves licking against the shore. The fascia loves novel information. The body loves new sensations. So I don't know if anybody's heard of Feldenkrais out there. This is an amazing form of body movement, of physical therapy, manual therapy, whereby you mobilize, you move, you allow the body to express itself. You're looking for the ease. And Qigong also has some kind of fantastic joint articulations in there. Just have a go for a second. We've been using our hands for a while now, so get some spiral in there. Imagine this old Chinese trick of juggling plates, right? Or moving plates on cane. Right? So imagine you've got those plates. You bring them down. You don't want to spill tonight's dinner. Working it loose. Work it, baby. Shake it all loose. There's no excuse for any tension as well. We're here to give ourselves some love, to look after ourselves. I want you to feel as good can be. Right. With these little techniques that we've got of conscious touch, allowing our full being to enter into our fingers, and the area we're touching, I want you to put these two middle fingers together, like the opposite of the Vulcan salute, and the thumb. And we're going to work with these two, okay? The neck bone here, right? Yeah, collarbone, cleidoid or something like that is forming a little arch here, a little indent. That is the connection between the collarbone and the chest, the only point at which our arms and our upper body connect bone to bone. Shoulder blades have a lot of muscle and fascia going on, but this is the only bony connection between our arms and the rest of our body. Just above that, the neck begins. You can feel your windpipe, and behind that, your esophagus. But here, I don't know if you know, but the thyroid gland is a butterfly. It's the seat of the heart chakra, but throat chakra, communication, right? You may think that communication is just a way in which you can send information to the outside world and receive it. Your body is also communicating with itself, and the thyroid has some very important hormones that control metabolism and speak with the rest of the body. So for our own integrity, this is a very interesting area to touch, right? A very gentle touch. We're just going to come in with the thumb and with those two fingers, either side of the ridge, and feel, palpate a soft landing, have a feel around. The thyroid is on the surface, actually. It's not very deep at all, so a very light touch here will stimulate this area. And by applying your little toolkit of techniques, introducing some induction by moving your hand up and moving your hand down. I feel there's a lot more ease in the tissues at the moment going up. So I'm going to introduce an upward movement with my octopus hands. my thumb and finger very lightly touching my skin, but at the same time making a deep connection with the tissues and coming up. And exploring. Maybe there's a spiral down to the right, maybe there's a spiral down to the left. Maybe going off to the right or going off to the left doesn't feel good to me. Okay, so I'm just going to spiral down a little bit like this. I could feel that at the top of my head. Introducing some novel sensations to the area. Communicating with our great communicator. Vocal cords, larynx is also just behind here where we're touching as well in the same space. So there's a lot going on here anatomically. And I hope that you can build a deeper relationship with yourself, coming to understand this wonderful body that allows us physical expression of life. It's full of energy, it's full of vitality. So coming from here, and with the other hand coming into the chest, into the sternum. Let's just introduce another sensation there with the lower hand and upper hand. Some communication between the two, right? Where there is reciprocal tension, where you bring 2 points of awareness in the body, then between them, you're making a connection, some quantum entanglement going on here. Nice. Okay, and to finish off, today I'd like you to come back to your hands, come back to your soft hands. These 2 little fingers here, the reverse Vulcan salute. We're going to put them at the back of our neck, just below the occiput, just below that, the back of the head, where the atlas bone is at the top of the vertebrae, at the top of the backbone. That area, that cranial bone, is called the occiput, right? Tension here produces headaches, tired eyes, visual disorders. It can even make you snore. So my girlfriend's going to appreciate that I relieve a little bit of tension here before we go. Okay. These 2 fingers are tucking in neatly to the area where the head touches the backbone, right? And yet again, we don't want pressure. We're not making dough here. We're just going to introduce some consciousness and create some novel sensations. An interplay between 2 sets of fingers. But first and foremost, by becoming aware of the area, we are already changing the object of our perception. And the more time our fingers spend here, the more our body accepts their presence and reacts to the pressure by making space. You can go for upwards and downwards movements, very slow, subtle, wavy motions. Making some space. Our only intention being to release locked up energy and transform it into movement. Anything that got stuck in there, easing it on its way. Oh, I can feel that pressure in the back of my head. And breathe. And allow the fingers to move slightly to the side. Bringing your elbows together to produce the movement. You're not overworking yourself, and where you can, using the leverage of another body movement to produce the desired effect. Okay, nice. How are you feeling? How was that for you? If you like that and want to find out some more, hopefully I will make an online course now. This is my mission for the next couple of months. You'll find me on Facebook at innersense.life, and my website as well is there. I'm Adam. Very nice to meet you. OM&BASS in your face. Lovely. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.